I would like to invite Yashwendra Singh, Executive Editor, ETCIO, to moderate the session. Over to you, Yashwendra.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all to this leadership dialogue on reimagining business models. As enterprises across the world relook at their growth strategies in the post-pandemic world, business and technology leaders will have to lead from the front to stay relevant in the new world order. This will mean that they would have to reposition their enterprises and aggressively move to digital technologies to enable transformation. In order to come back stronger, companies will need to reimagine their business models as they return to full speed. Joining me in this freewheeling and no-holds-barred leadership dialogue is Mr. Kamal Nath, CEO, Sify Technologies. And we will be discussing how organizations can reimagine and restore business growth going forward. Welcome, Mr. Nath.
Thank you, Yash.
Wonderful to have you, sir. To begin with, CEOs have to revisit business models to stay relevant post-COVID-19. How can they reimagine their businesses to wrest back growth? In your view, how should organizations rethink their business models in order to stay relevant post-COVID-19?
So firstly, I guess, CEOs of different organizations would have different challenges and priorities. However, one thing, what they would be facing, and in fact they're facing is common. The consumer behavior and demand patterns have actually significantly changed during and post-COVID and will continue to do so. So we have also realized that the digital technologies have been breaking the boundary of large, medium, and small organizations. In fact, the technology disruptions had started even before the pandemic. Pandemic has just given it a momentum and scale. So under these circumstances, business leaders have 4 strategic areas to focus on: recovering and revenue and retaining the revenue, which during the pandemic, a lot of companies have lost revenue and the fundamental revenue base itself. Second one is rebuilding the operations and in fact the rethinking about the organization. And of course, the last but not the least is accelerating the adoption of digital technologies. So now there are broadly three different kind of organizations. First one is the traditional market leaders, large organizations, who have been market leaders for quite some time. And then we have the challengers. There are organizations who are trying to challenge the market leaders for some time to gain leadership in their respective areas. And the third category, broadly speaking, would be the startups and the digital native companies. Now, the traditional market leaders, for them, retaining their revenue base, because they are expected to have a large revenue base, retaining the revenue base, and at the same time creating new business and delivery models, and more importantly, creating stronger bond with large customer base which they have, so that they don't move on. So these are the priorities for the traditional market CEOs of traditional market leaders. For the challengers, I will say this disruption is a great moment for them to use technology and innovative partnerships to beat the traditional leaders by quickly understanding the changed customer behavior and need. The challenges, we have seen that they are more agile than the so-called large organizations or the leaders. So they have the agility advantage with them. And of course, the startups and the digital native companies, it is an opportunity to gain customer share, the customer market share, and create new business models by disrupting customer behaviors like they always did. To summarize, irrespective of the size and shape of the organization, few common elements across the industry which are to be adopted at this point of time is: number one, to bring a startup mindset within the organization, to bring in agility and accountability in the rank and file in the organization. By putting human at the core, companies will need to rethink their operating model based on how their people work best. For example, if the hybrid model is a better way of working, then it's better to adopt the hybrid model rather than going back to the earlier model. So your human resources, if you put that priority first in your digital model, and if you are able to create emotional bond with the human resources, I think that's going to be one of the most critical factors. And of course, from a customer's point of view, the same customer may use your product for a different circumstances or to meet different objectives. So we need to constantly build new use cases based on customers' new need. And of course, last but not the least is to build new digital model and channels to meet the ever evolving customer buying pattern. So, and of course, to stay relevant throughout the entire, organization journey.
Wonderful. Wonderful, Mr. Nath. You've really nicely highlighted what business and technology leaders need to do going forward to stay relevant. Wonderful. My next question is, sir, it's common, everybody is thinking that budgets would be curtailed going forward. However, the pace of digital transformation has to continue. So what is the way forward for business and technology leaders to balance the two? Budget cuts on one hand, while ensuring that digital transformation continues on the other. What's the best approach to achieving this?
You see, in a very simple, in a simple way, I think, investment in digital technology and to drive digital transformation is like investment in health and fitness. For us, right? You need to invest as much as it's required to remain relevant, competitive, and sustainability in the long run. Because if you don't invest in digital technologies, if you don't build digital business models, you are no longer going to be relevant. So it's for maintaining the basic health of the organization. So what is health and fitness for individuals? You will go to the gym, you will eat well, you will do exercise, you will do yoga and pranayama. So these are all investment behind oneself, right? So I guess the digital transformation by using digital technologies is an investment for the organization. If you don't do it, you become unhealthy and you become less competitive in the market. So just imagine that digital native companies, they spend almost 100% of their money in digital technologies for doing anything and everything what they need to do. Now, how much you would spend now and later would depend on the digital gap you have with your competition. So you are fighting a battle with which is around the digital gap, what you have with your competition. And in today's world, the competition are not the traditional competition. We have seen in case of, say, large banks or insurance companies, there are a lot of new players who are coming and they are disrupting their brand and business model. So I guess, and I believe strongly, not guess, is that investing in digital transformation is no longer a choice. It's not good to do, but it's a must. It's a must to do.
Wonderful. Sure. So just like exercise helps building immunity in the human body, I think investment in IT would future-proof the business from such crises and help build immunity.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Moving on, what are the key takeaways for business and technology leaders from this crisis? What are the big learnings here for the top management? And how should organizations prepare for long-term success despite facing such crisis in the future? Because I'm sure this is not the first or the last such event confronting organizations. What is your thought, your takeaway on this?
I guess, the reactions and responses to pandemic, I think Indian and India, why only India? Indian global enterprises have responded to the pandemic crisis very quickly, thanks to technology. But those reactions and responses to pandemic crisis need to be now embraced as a new way of work and doing business, number one. Number two, what we have realized is that the building a very robust business continuity plan, not only around infrastructure, but of course around processes, people and partners are going to be extremely important, because we are also hearing now, another threat of, Omicron virus, right? So those organizations who have been able to build a good business continuity plan in between the last COVID wave and whatever time the lockdown is not there, they will be better prepared, right? And I guess, I spoke about this earlier also, to create a startup mindset within the organizations to bring agility and accountability. And while creating the business models, whether it's business model or way of working, either with employees and customer engagements, partner engagement, and the entire ecosystem, the organizations have to follow the principle of digital at the core. So if you follow digital at the core, a lot of the things which we are discussing, we will get resolved. So you have digital as the core DNA of the company. This is extremely important. And I also believe all these things put together will bind the CEO, CTO, and CFO and the other and everyone at the CXO level to a common technology-driven goal. Because traditionally, it is not the same case now. The CFO was not talking technology, but we see today the CFOs are talking technology, right? So each of them will be enabler and driver as well for a digital transformation, within the organization to meet a common objective of remaining relevant and also, being able to handle crisis at a much better in a much better way.
Sure. So digital at the core is the mantra for most organizations, and definitely so, because I feel the pandemic has made all enterprises digital enterprises. All businesses have today become digital businesses.
Right.
So definitely.
It is not only the business models, it is also what is the culture within the organization? Is it still the analog way of doing things or physical way of doing this or digital way of doing things? A lot of these things will actually get driven by what is happening in the consumer world. Like the way, in our daily life, the way we buy, the way we interact with our friends and families, the way we receive treatment from hospitals, or the way we entertain ourselves. Correct.
True.
All these things are digitally happening. So it can't be so that in the consumer world the digital is at the core, but in the enterprise world or in the business world, digital can't be at the. There's no choice. Digital has to be in the core.
Absolutely. Wonderful. We've had a great discussion, Mr. Nath, but we're fast running out of time. So one final question before we wrap up this session. According to you, what are some of the technology trends for the next 12 months? And as Sify, how are you planning to be a part of these shifts, helping business and technology leaders in ensuring business growth?
Yeah, I guess we discuss every day on cloud and digital, but on the building block of cloud and on cloud, the digital technologies which are going to emerge a trend we are already seeing the presence of these trends, but it is only going to accelerate in the coming days. If you're asking next 12 months, definitely in the next 12 months is of course artificial intelligence and machine learning, RPA, edge computing will be emerging, virtual reality and augmented reality, particularly with content being so important nowadays,
and 5G around the corner.
Yeah, and 5G, and of course 5G, and last not the least, the cyber security technologies. Because when you do all these things, security has to be a primary concern for every organization. Now, all these technologies will either fully run on cloud or cloud-enabled platforms, right? Now, as far as Sify is concerned, we had built our cloud at the core framework, as we are enabling organizations to adopt cloud and cloud enhanced services, which are actually the digital services, irrespective of their current position in the cloud adoption journey. So I'm not talking about the digital native companies over here, but there are a lot of enterprises, big part of the enterprise, they are at a very different points of their cloud adoption journey. So if they have to trigger their digital transformation journeys and they have to adopt digital technologies, in their entire curve of digital maturity, they are at different points. So our cloud at the core framework enables customers, to adopt cloud and digital, irrespective of, what point of the journey they are today. Okay. And having invested significantly in infrastructure and skills around hyperscale data centers, cloud interconnects, security, and other professional services, we work with our customers, helping them to adopt hybrid and or multi-cloud platform, as the case may be, on which this technology would run. And on the other hand, we'll also use ourselves, some of these technologies, to enhance our products and services, and our products, services, and service delivery models to deliver superior customer experience.
So there are definitely exciting times ahead, and I feel Sify Technologies is at the right place and at the right time. All the best for your future endeavors,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Nath.
Thank you, Yash.
With this, we come to the end of this session, ladies and gentlemen. To conclude, truly digital businesses operate fundamentally different from traditional businesses. Evolving from one to the other takes years of painstaking, deliberate change. Driving that change takes leadership. And not every leader wants to drive that change. But to survive and thrive in this environment of flux, business and technology leaders will have to drive change and reimagine their business models. Thanks a lot, Mr. Nath, for sharing those wonderful insights. And thanks, viewers, for watching this session. Thank you very much.
All the best. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Nath.
Thank you, gentlemen, for an interesting session. Now we'll take a short break. Stay tuned and keep tweeting.